It's time for the Alien Conspiracy Podcast. We are your hosts, Agent ETA,
Agent Ether,
Agent Kruger,
and Agent Anderson. Come along as we examine UFO sightings, conspiracies, and all things strange. You can follow the show on Twitter at AlienConPod. We also have an email address, alienconpod@protonmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to check out our links in the description. We've got them all in one place now. This week's episode, more spooky stories. All right, who wants to go first? I think so last time we had I felt like we had a lot of momentum going, and we had plenty of spooky stuff we had not yet explored. So we sort of cut the episode short because it was starting to run long. And now we are ready for round 2 of spooky stories. How about Agent ETA? You want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. I didn't have a whole lot more to talk about, but one of the things I did want to talk about is all the different stories when it comes to the White House. And Abraham Lincoln in particular is the one that kind of pulled my interest, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of different stories about people experiencing the ghost of Abraham Lincoln in the White House. And I think supposedly the one that was the first person to say that she saw somebody or saw him in the White House was Grace Coolidge, which is, she was the first lady at the time. And it's a very simple story. She walked into the Yellow Oval Room, and she says that she saw Lincoln standing at a window looking over the Potomac. And she was startled, But my favorite story by far, actually, I think is British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. And so the story goes that Winston Churchill was staying at the White House at the time. And he was just kind of relaxing at the end of the night. And, he had taken a long hot bath, and he was, doing his usual routine of drinking a scotch and smoking a cigar. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of pictures of Winston Churchill with a cigar. The guy was obviously a big connoisseur of them, But it's very kind of witty, like what he supposedly had said when he encountered the ghost. So he walks out of the bathroom, and he's just butt naked, with a scotch and a cigar in hand. And that might be kind of a ugly picture to imagine, but whatever. It's still funny nonetheless. So he walks into the bedroom, and he says, and I quote, "Good evening, Mr. President. You seem to have me at a disadvantage." And what had happened, I guess, was Lincoln just turned towards him and smiled softly and disappeared shortly thereafter. But, it's kind of one of those things because Winston Churchill, if you're familiar with the character, the guy was a very witty guy. He had a good sense of humor from what I've heard, Obviously, I never met the guy, but, it was kind of hilarious, I think, But, I mean, there was countless people, famous figures and not so famous figures that have said that they have encountered the spirit of Abraham Lincoln in the White House. There was actually quite a few people during Theodore Roosevelt's presidency, himself, and also his daughter, Maureen Reagan, and her husband, Dennis C. Revelle, I think is how you pronounce his name. I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but there was large groups of people that not only claim to have seen his ghost all at once, they all saw it. And most of it is just an apparition, that is standing there in some room somewhere, and shortly thereafter, he disappears, But there's also tales of Mary Todd Lincoln, Lincoln's wife. She used to have seances and stuff, and she was really into it, I guess, you know what I mean? She was into the whole spirit thing, and supposedly she had contacted him at one point, and after his death, obviously. It's just it's one of those things where it's a reoccurring story throughout the history of the White House. I mean, like I said, everybody from the Roosevelts to the Eisenhowers, they not just Eisenhower, but the press secretary at the time, James Haggerty, and they all had stories about seeing Lincoln, not just once but multiple times, And it seems like potentially Lincoln had been hanging around there, just meandering throughout the years, and maybe because how some people talk about the reason why a spirit might be around, and a lot of it seems to be like they have unfinished business, I guess you'd say, or maybe they still want to make an impact, or on somebody or multiple somebodies. But it's a. I think it's a if you look into it, there's a lot of stories, like there's all sorts of different stories that you can read about where people say that they saw Lincoln, and that was you can go more into it. I mean, like I said, there's countless people like Dwight Eisenhower and stuff, like I said, and Harry Truman he says that he saw something. He was what I read was it was really kind of vague what he was like describing. I think some of these people, like, they when you see a ghost or something, like you don't want to be looked at as crazy or something like that, or like lose your reputation, affect your reputation. Right. So some of them are just kind of like I think I might have seen or heard something, but there's a lot of stories about like tapping on doors and hearing footsteps down the hall or what have you,
and or dog bark.
That or distant ghost
that's
dogs.
That's a ghost dog. It's spooky.
Spooky. A spuppy.
It's a spuppy. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean I didn't really have a whole lot on that. It's just kind of one of those things at the end of the episode last time. I just wanted to mention, like just talk about because it's one of my favorite ghost stories is Abraham Lincoln, just because of how many famous people or influential people had said that they had experienced his ghost, and
I'd be more inclined to believe that. I mean, with presidents putting so much work and their life into that job, it's like,
yeah, well, and how much influence that Abraham Lincoln also had, and how much, and the way he went out too, obviously being murdered and stuff, like if there is a ghost that's going to stick around and feels like he has more business to do or
unfinished business.
Business. Yeah. Then that might be the one. That could be the one or a one,
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, but besides that, like, I don't think, did I mention in it? Cause I've had a couple iffy things. I don't know if it was a ghost or not, but it was kind of like a little bit of an experience. Did I talk about that in the first show there?
I don't think
Possibly.
so.
Yeah, hit it.
So it's not something that was like, it's not something that's like, it wasn't like a straight up like, oh, I saw a ghost. It was just like, I don't know what that was. Basically was the experience. So back when I was a teenager, I want to say I was probably 16, 17. I think it was during the summer and right before I was about to turn 17, I think. And so, there used to be this spot that me and my friends used to go to hang out and drink and stuff, and like it was a good spot because it was actually like and I don't know how old this place is, but it was a cemetery, and it was kind of nestled into this like industrial like park type area. It was
no, thank you.
So it was right up beside this hill off the 57 freeway. And the good thing about it, the reason why we went there is because you could see like any cops or anything or anybody coming from a far ways away, and you have plenty of time to either get out or hide your alcohol, what have you, because like I said, that's the reason why we always went there usually is to go drink, but it was a cemetery, and it was right on the border of City of Industry and Pomona. I think it was Pomona. I could be wrong, but anyways, it was right on the border, right there, right around that area. And so we used to go there to party, and to have like little kickbacks and stuff, whatever. So at the time, I was there with my girlfriend, and we had kind of just like sneaked off to the side to mess around, and we were standing up against this tree. And I had looked over, and mind you, this is like in the summertime, right? It wasn't like super hot out, but it wasn't cold. So, and this is important to the story because I looked over in front of one of these gravestones. It looked like there was like this little pocket of mist, like almost like a cloud, a tiny miniature cloud, I guess I could describe it. I mean, it was weird, like, and it was only there for like a quick second. Like I had looked over it at it, and then I looked at my girlfriend. I was like, "Did you see that?" She's like, "Yeah." What the hell was that? Like, because we kind of like both looked over at the same time, And like when we looked back at each other and then looked back at it, it was already gone. Like it was a couple seconds at most, you know what I mean? It was just like a flash type thing. And like, I was just like, what the hell was that? Like, and we were both like, we saw it. We know we saw this. Like we both confirmed it to each other. You know, did you see that? Yeah, I saw it. What did you see? It looked like mist almost, like right, you know, like right above the ground, you know, like almost like a little cloud or something. But it was there for a quick freaking second. And but this cemetery though, by the way, was a very old cemetery. It wasn't like an active cemetery at all. You know, like most of the gravestones and stuff were like from the early like you know like 1920s and 30s and stuff like that, you know, when this area had first kind of started to be more popularized, you know. So that was like, I mean, there's a couple things where, you know, you hear a weird noise or something like that out in the forest, you know, I've been camping, you know, but that could be an animal, you know what I mean? Like that could be anything really, or a cryptid, but like that's kind of like that's kind of the only, I've never really had like a ghost experience, you know what I mean? Even though like naively I want to, because I'm a fan of ghosts and stuff, but then if I would have an actual real ghost experience, maybe that might freak me the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like that,
right.
that might not be a good experience. I don't know. But I like I said in the previous show, I've always been a huge fan of ghost stories because like it gets a rise out of me. Like I get the goosebumps, you know, when I hear a good story, you know, and like you imagine yourself being there too, you know. But yeah, I mean it's one of those things where I give some credit to ghost stories, you know what I mean? Even though I like, in my opinion, like I've said before, I've never seen any real hard evidence that couldn't be faked. And I've seen stuff that could look like it could be evidence, but I don't know because it's something that could easily be faked. Like I had said in the previous episode, you know?
Right.
So like, I love this stuff, but I'm not, I want to be a believer, but I'm not necessarily a believer. I like the stories. You know what I mean?
I feel that. Yeah, I can completely relate.
I think that
yeah.
was the same cemetery where Agent Anderson and I went on one of our first dates. Do you remember that?
Very popular
Really?
cemetery. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the only cemetery around. So I think
Where
there
all
was
the
like
cool
a
kids go.
coffee shop across the street or something. So we went and got coffee and then we just wandered around the spooky cemetery.
Well, there may or may not have been a print shop in the area, and the the kids of the parents who own the print shop may or may not have thrown parties there on occasion.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty close to there. But so there's actually, this reminds me of people in the chat were talking about dogs seeing stuff, right? And this actually reminded me of our dog, one of our dogs. We got him. They said he was about a year old when we got him, but he kept getting bigger. So it turns out he was probably, you know, a lot younger than that. I think he's probably full grown by now.
I hope so.
I hope so. But anyways, when we got him, there's this, to back up a little bit, there's this idea that somehow like children can, like they can sense the paranormal more easily than adults. Like maybe they're lacking some kind of filter or whatever, but there's this classic trope where children see ghosts that parents cannot see, right? So we have two dogs. Only one of them actually did this. So the new dog that was a puppy, he's done this like 3 times where I've been in the bedroom, like either folding laundry or just doing something, and then he'll start freaking out and barking, and he'll act like there's somebody in the room, and then he'll bark, and like, you know, if you're in front of a dog and then you step towards them, they'll back up a little bit, and then if you step away, then they'll step forward, you know? Like he was reacting like that, like there was actually somebody in the room, but there wasn't. It was just me. I was home alone. There's nobody else there. So he did that for a second, and then he sort of went out the room. He peeked out around the corner out of the door, and then barked down the hallway, and then ran back like with his tail between his legs and kind of hid behind me. I was like, "What are you doing, dude?" Like, I don't like that one bit. That is completely terrifying. Like it kind of gave me the chills. He's only done this like 3 times, like not that often. And he hasn't done it in a couple of months. So I'm wondering if, because he was a puppy, the veil was thinner for him and he was able to sense something. But the weird thing is he was acting like there was somebody else in the house, like a person, like an intruder. But there wasn't. It was just me. It was really freaking creepy, and I totally forgot about that until people were talking about dogs in the chat right now. But so that's a short one. I got another one for later, but so for now, I'll turn it over to Adrian Kruger. What do you got for us?
No, nothing on that. I was just gonna springboard off what you were saying.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was that when my dad passed, he was the one that actually picked out our dog. And after, I know dogs like miss some owners when they're not there, kind of thing, and they'll hang around in a certain spot. But she was like, this was my black lab, and her name was Ponga, and she was just a great dog, and came like right off the bat, just well trained, everything just perfect about the dog. But she did this thing shortly after he passed, which was just weird. We would all kind of see it and we wouldn't react. It was just, she would walk up to the door, and anytime my dad showed up at home, she wasn't the type that would be like jumping on you and hyper and stuff like that. She would just sit there and like wag her tail, but she would be all nice and proper and just sit and stare at you until she got pets. And it was just a great dog. But shortly after my dad passed, I want to say like a week or so after, like everybody left because everybody came and like was preparing the funeral and the services and stuff like that. She just constantly I swear to God, after midnight, she would always like, because the distance from her bed into our front door was a little bit of a walk for her. Nothing big, but it was like you would hear her pause, walk to the door. And so for some odd reason, she would never, unless you came home, she would never have business being over there. And every time after midnight, she would just walk up, sit there, and just stare out the door. And it wasn't like she was gloomy or anything. And one night, because I had upstairs, Eric, you've seen our old house in Pala, and like there was that second floor, that second story or whatever. So like I heard her pause from my room, like on the tile, and I was like, oh, Ponga shouldn't be there. And I looked over, and she was just like nothing distracting her, just focused on the door. And it still gives me goosebumps, dude. It's so weird. And it's hard. It sucks because like I can't show you what I saw, but like every time I look over and see her, she was just, nothing would deter her from that door. And she would just sit there. And then all of a sudden what would creep me the fuck out was that she would start wagging her tail, like as if somebody was there, and back up and like full on like expect pets. And like, it was just body language my dog would give off. But, there was, when my dad passed, I had like, it wasn't, so moving on from that. So like, I want like you, Agent ETA, I have that belief that like, I like the stories more to it. Like I want to believe like there's more to that, but so I have the belief though, that if anything, there would be more contact within our dreams and when we're asleep. And maybe I could be wrong about this, but I don't think I told you guys about I had a full on conversation with my father, like full on, like he looked different. He was fatter. But I wasn't the only one out of the siblings of his children that had this same dream where it was a one-on-one meeting. And it was like Tim had it. I forgot exactly the settings for him, my brother. And then there was my sisters who also had dreams, but they had it in areas that they were familiar with. Like my sister, Mel, she had it where she was in a bar and they met up for, some drinks. And like, but each story or each dream had an underlying relation, was that he was telling us to, keep going. Don't let down your mothers. You know what I mean? Like, make sure you're there for your family, and don't don't leave them. And it was just the weirdest. I don't know if that's really saying it as well.
I don't know. That's giving me goosebumps right now.
Well, I had it where,
because I think there's something to the spiritual side of life that like we don't necessarily understand. Because it's one of those things like, how do you really like research it, and like how do you look at it like in a scientific way, I guess, you know what I mean? Like,
well, the thing that I'll say on it, and then we'll move on from this, is that this is how it always starts with and ever since then I've never had the same dream since. And there was a level of like anger I had and resentment towards my dad, but that's a whole other level of a whole different can of worms
So,
there.
another story. Yeah.
But I had it where this dream started out where it was just like a white, desolate, like salt flat, basically. Like that's the only thing I can relate it to. It was just like a big, empty, out of nowhere, just land. And in the middle of the land was a white house, like just this white, rickety old house, but it was still holding up. Wasn't like trashy crack house type deal, but it was kind of borderline onto that. It was a well-used house, but it was an all white house, and the paint was runny. And I remember it because there was wind, and I could feel the wind and the heat and the just the uncomfortableness being there. And this door kept slapping back and forth, and I was like, I didn't have the control of my body to be able to walk, but like I was just like, oh, noise, door. Then like from the distance, I like zoomed in to the door, and then all suddenly I'm in the kitchen, and I could feel and hear like just my surroundings, like the wood floor. I could feel it creak and bend and everything. And so it was just this weird ass feeling. And like, so my dad was in the kitchen and his back was up against the stove, and he was reading the paper of all things, and he was looking at it, and he saw me, but he wasn't happy to see me. And it was more of like, hey, you like that look of like, hey, you know what you got to do, and don't disappoint me. This isn't a happy meeting. You know, like, I don't know how to say it.
Sending you a message like,
I want to believe that. And that's the thing is that, but I have never had a dream like that since. And so like it was the weirdest thing. And like he was pinned up against the wall, and he was just kind of like, you see these? And he like gestured to this, like these glasses that I know he would have liked. It was like those Oakleys with like the MP3 players built into it. And he was like, you know, these would have been cool. And like you could tell that he was like disappointed that he wasn't going to get to like wear those or actually see how those look on him and whatnot. Like he was just like, I would have liked a pair of those. And he looked at me, and like it was like that moment of like me starting to realize like that's when the dream started kind of like fading out. Like it was more of like, hey, Tim and your mom, you know, you got to be there for him. And it was, I shit you not, I swear to God on my eternal soul, that was all that transpired. It was just, you know, like this look of like, you know what you got to do, and you got to be there. And like, I was like, okay. And then I started trying to talk to him, but it was right in that moment, like, and this is where I lean to it being a dream, obviously, or I hope it wasn't, but it was like me realizing he's not here anymore. And I started to like feel this overwhelming emotion, and just like, you know, oh no, don't go, don't like. And I was like, hey, wait, I have so much more to ask you. And like in that moment, I just woke up, and I was like choking for air because I was just bawling my eyes out, and I didn't know I was doing that. It was just so overwhelmed with emotion that I was just like, what the hell? And not to have a pity party or whatever, the last thing I'll say is that I had another one of these dreams with my mom, and that's where I'm like, okay, maybe it was just because I missed them so much, but this happened years after the fact of my dog with my dad, that happened like a couple weeks after, but like that's a whole different can of worms, like I said. But these dreams happen way after their passing. So that's where I'm like, well, shit, maybe there is like the veil is thin, and maybe they can communicate. Maybe I'm not living up to the expectations or what they intended for me to do in this world, and they're trying to like nudge me in a direction of saying like, hey, you know, do this, right? But like each story or each dream or vision or whatever you call it, like I'm kind of in, it's not a happy like reunion. We're not like, oh my God, hey, oh, yada yada. It's like they're sad. We're both sad, and like there's a look of situation. Disappointment. Yeah, but it's like, but like with my mother, it was like she and I went to a library, go figure. But like the thing that was so weird was that the carpeting was orange and the walls were yellow, and it had that smell of like 70s like 70s 80s car, you know, that's the best way I can say it, like old school just smell, like, and it just was overwhelming. And I remember so this is where it tripped me out the most, was that the people that I was seeing in the library were people that, like, after I woke up, I realized, but I didn't know that, like, so when I was there, I was like, hey, Ruth, and this and that. And I was just like, why, what's up, guys? How you doing? And I was more happy to see the people there. But then it didn't hit me until I woke up after this and stuff like that, that they were dead. Those people aren't no longer with us either. And that I remember I was talking to them, and then I looked at my mom, and she was sitting on a bench, and she was just looking at me, like, not disappointed, but was just like not smiling either. And it was just this weird feeling of like, I was like, oh, well, I got to cheer her up. And I just hugged her. That's all I did. It was just hugging her. And I could feel that sensation of like, you guys all know when you hug that one person that's been in your life, your mom or whoever it might be that's been around your life, your entire life, there's just that sense of like love and unconditional love. And then when you guys hug or whatever, you're just connection. Like poor. Yeah, you feel that connection. And like, yeah, I had that. But then again, like the other one, it's like that light bulb shoots off, and it's like, oh shit, they're not here anymore. And then like I just wake up and I'm just crying my eyes out, and like I can't get around it. And like I'm man enough to say, yeah, I cry, like, you know, but like but those are the only times. Like it was really, really shitty, because it's like you wake up and you're like, oh, like you want to tell that person like, hey, I just had this crazy dream. And you're like, oh wait, no, I can't, like, for obvious reasons now. Yeah. But it was like I still have those dreams on repeat in my brain. Like, what the hell is going on? And it's just, there's more to it, but I don't want to drag it on or whatever. Isn't
it funny how sometimes like and I've had this experience before where you have like a waking dream, you know, like you're somewhat awake, but you're not. You're definitely not awake, but like it seems so real. And like it almost messes up your mind a little bit, because like it may be like something ridiculous that, like, you know, like something that is not even realistic at all, you know, that you had a dream about, but when you woke up, like you're like was that real? No, there's no way
am
that
I
could
still
be
dreaming?
Real.
Like and what's going on? Yeah,
you think about it a little bit, like, no, that wasn't that. No, there's no way that could have been real. You know what I mean? Like
what's that movie where it's like a dream and a dream and a dream? What was that movie?
Inception.
I have dreams all the time like that. All the time, where I, in my dream, wake up, like I'm sleeping and I wake up in my dream, but I'm actually really still sleeping. I don't like it at all.
That freaked me out.
It's impossible to tell when you're asleep. It really is.
You gotta have your totem though that makes you grounded to the reality.
Right,
like you gotta spin a dreidel or something.
A dreidel.
Well, that actually kind of relates to like the only other like experience, I guess I could say I had, but I didn't know if it was real. I was very young. I think I was around 10 or 12 years old or something like that. And I might have even been younger. I forget. I might have been younger than that, actually, now that I think about it. But we were staying at our grandparents' house in Arcadia, and I had gotten up to go to the bathroom like late at night, and it was one of those things where like I think that we had watched like a scary movie like earlier that day or something like that, you know. So that's probably what influenced this, you know. But like I was like half asleep, half awake, and it was just like I had to do my business, you know what I mean. And so I was sitting there on the toilet, and I swear to God, I saw something like creep, like not creep, but like peek around the doorway, like just real quick. It was like I couldn't say what it was. Like it seemed like a face or something, but I couldn't say what it was though. But it's one of those things where like it was such a quick interaction, and I didn't even know if it was real, if I even really saw it, if I was dreaming or something, like still, you know, like I was walking around, like doing my bit, like, you know, I had to go use the restroom, and maybe I was still kind of half asleep, maybe, I don't know, but like it's still like it's one of those things I still remember to this day, because like I remember being freaked out by it, like. Did I just see something? No, I don't think I saw something. Like it happened so fast. Like I don't okay, I don't know if that was something or not, but I still remember it to this day. And it could have, it could have been, like I said, one of those things where I was freaking myself out. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And so I kind of, I lean more towards that, you know what I mean? But to be honest, like some of my favorite ghost stories and stuff are ones that are like involve like poltergeist and stuff, really. Like, you have different types of interactions that people have with spirits, ghosts, whatever, entities, whatever it may be. But like the poltergeist stuff though, when people cause like this is some of the stuff where like, yeah, I've seen a lot of footage that people post and stuff about their experiences. And I mean, most of it to me could be faked, but some of it's really compelling. Like when you see like drawers opening and like stuff moving around the house, and people getting scratched or something like that, or attacked like in their bed,
That's
like,
great. Yeah, fuck that.
like all that stuff, like I said, could be faked, but what if it isn't?
Well, like sometimes they have, sorry to jump in there, but like sometimes they've had it where like it's something that's related to their passing, or like what was the reason? Like there was this, I remember this story about
it's related
this house.
to like the property that they're living in, or the house they're living in. Something happened,
like, like there was this. So there was a story about this old lady that I knew, or that was like when I was growing up, that there was this house, and the family that moved in after lived there for not very much longer. Like, so this lady, she wasn't grumpy. She wasn't like mean or anything. She was just, your typical old lady. Like, I don't know, like just nice, down to earth, everybody liked her. She could take care of herself. And one day she, obviously her cycle ended. She died, and a family moved in and started changing things, how the house, used to be and all that stuff. But then they were there for within a year though. They moved in, they dropped some serious money on the house, but they left as like soon as they could. And it wasn't until like I started talking to the neighbors and whatnot, like just out of nowhere, so there was incidents where, so I don't know how to really say this, so the family, when they moved in there wasn't like this countless creepy shit happening, but it was like they would have school, and like the mom would stay behind, the dad was at work and stuff like that. But she said that, every now and then she'd wake up and like a faucet would be on, like just complete like water just running, and she thought it was the kids leaving it on, and or the husband forgetting to turn off the faucet for whatever good reason. But it wasn't until like the third or fourth time that it happened, that when she kept bringing it up, they're like, no mom, we're not doing it. And the husband, no, I am not doing that, trust me. So it wasn't until one day she woke up and all the faucets in the house were running. They were all going off. And so she actually hired a plumber, and the plumber actually did work there before when he went there to, fix everything. And he was like, I can tell you right now that the faucets aren't broken. And she was like, well, what do you mean? You barely looked into it. And he's like, yeah, I know. She drowned to death. And so it was like she was an elderly woman, and somehow I think she either had a stroke or something like that, but like she passed out in the bath and died in the bathtub. She died in the bathroom. And so like that's where the faucet was running at first, was the bathroom, but then it ended up being all the faucets turning on. But like that's my point, is that like that stuff creeps me out the most, is that like, if it was something related to, a drowning, and then there was something that always is reoccurring within the house, like running water and this and stuff like that. And it's like, shit, that creeps me the fuck out. So,
I actually had something, it didn't happen to me, but it was kind of like a little situation where some of the people at my work were, one or two in particular were very like, I guess they've had some experiences and they feel very strongly about this type of subject. So we had this like charity that we were we had like a bunch of stuff like gifts and prizes that we had accumulated and stuff, and it was like a Halloween theme type thing because Halloween's coming up, and some very unfortunate things happened to some people that I worked with, some of the supervisors as well. And having kids pass away and stuff like that. There was two of the people that I worked with, some of my supervisors, they had unfortunately children that passed away recently since we started this thing. But one of the women that I work with has had some, from what she says, like her house is like good and haunted. Like she has experiences where she'll wake up with like a dark figure standing above her or something like that. And there's more that goes into it. I haven't really talked to her that much about it. I'm just kind of passively aware of it. You know what I mean? Mm. But one of the things
hell no.
And she hasn't moved out. Why?
Yeah, I don't know. But like, so one of the things that had been included in this like big chest of like just like random gifts and stuff that people could like buy and contribute money towards this charity was a Ouija board. And from what they said, like once the Ouija board like showed up, all of a sudden bad things started happening. And that's the kind of thing I don't know. I've messed around with Ouija boards before with my friends when we were younger, but nothing ever happened.
No,
like nothing.
Those
like
are portals.
Yeah, well, I know that some people say that, like, you know, but like every experience I've ever had with a Ouija board, it's only been a couple times. Like nothing ever happened. Like the cursor never moved by itself or anything, you know, or we weren't able to you know, come into contact with a spirit or something like that. That for me, at least, that never happened. I know that there's a lot of people that say it has, and I'm not saying that they're liars, but you know, like for me though, like it was like a big nothing burger. You know, I was like, all right, well, we freaked ourselves out a little bit, and then nothing happened. Basically,
oh man,
you know?
my mom, she used to tell me, she's like, don't you use a Ouija board. You go looking for trouble, you're gonna find it. No Ouija board.
Well, and that's reasonable too, you know? Yeah, if you go looking for trouble, sometimes you are going to find it, right? So, but like, so basically it's a nurse that I work with. She basically, like, they took the Ouija board and like threw it away or something like that. Or they got rid of it somehow. I don't know what they did, but they got it the hell out of the facility, you know? And I was just like, I don't know, man. Like, you're going to blame all this bad stuff that just happened on a Ouija board? Come on now. You know, I don't know about that. Some people, they have to find blame in something though when bad things happen. You know what I mean? So and I understand that. You know, it's. I'm sure I've been guilty of it too. But it's one of those things where I just like she was adamant about like, this is the reason why all this bad stuff is happening because you guys brought this Ouija board in. And like I wasn't one of the ones. I mean, it was a couple guys, two of the guys I work with that brought the Ouija board in, thought it was a fun, you know, thing, but. Yeah, she was not happy about it. That's for sure. And like she blamed all the bad stuff that had recently happened on that. And I'm like, oh, come on now. It's sometimes life sucks. Sometimes bad things happen. It is what it is. Like it sucks. But I don't know if I could blame that on a freaking Ouija board. You know. On
the other hand, sometimes you wake up with a shadowy figure standing over you, and that's when it's time to move.
Yeah, I agree. Yes. If I ever lived anywhere where I had any kind of experience like that, a dark shadowy figure or, you know, even like disembodied voices like talking to you or even like stuff just moving around and stuff like, fuck that. No, dude, I am out. Like at that point, I would become a true believer. There's no doubt about that. Like, all right, that happened. I want to get away from that. But then like the bad part of it also is like, I've heard like many a story of like a poltergeist like affecting a household, right? And the person does move out, but the poltergeist, like the entity or whatever follows them to whatever the next place they're moving to, you know? So it wasn't attached to the property or the house. It was attached to them. And like I've heard like, you know, people talk about how like you can leave yourself open to this kind of thing without even realizing that you're open to it. And so like if you it's kind of one of those things where if you present yourself as a victim, you're going to be a victim. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like one of those type of things, I guess, you know, with a poltergeist, you know, if that does happen. So yeah, I mean that if that's a reality and that has happened to some people, oh, that must suck. Like that must be a horrible freaking experience, man. I mean, just imagine the loss of sleep, the loss of sanity. You know, like it could mess you up real quick. I think that kind of thing. You know, if it's actually happening. You know what I mean?
Well, and how do you deal with it? How do you tell your friends and your family
how the hell?
And your work?
Yeah.
And it's, you know, affecting you so much. Nobody's gonna believe you. Nobody's gonna listen to you.
Yeah, and it's just like the same, like I said before, like the same attitude I have kind of towards this kind of thing. I've never had anything really convincing, like make me convinced that like paranormal activities are an actual thing. Like it's if I heard somebody, like even I've met people, I've worked with people, I've had friends that say that they've had like some pretty substantial instances that they have experienced, but I got to be honest, I didn't really believe them. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It was yeah, it's just kind of like one of those things where it's just hard to believe that something like that could happen, and it is reality. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. So I don't blame anybody who like would be going through this type of thing. Like for example, like a poltergeist. Like and then not choose to tell anybody about it. Just try to deal with it, or maybe like one of the things that's actually kind of funny too that with that Ouija board situation at work that I was talking about. There was a couple people they actually went through the facility with sage, with burning sage. They actually went through the facility like burning sage, like in like I guess that's supposed to like clear the area or like get spirits out or something like that, or cleanse the area.
Very interesting place.
Well, this is the only time this kind of thing has ever happened that I've seen on in any of the facilities I've worked in. But like, I was just like, what? They did what? Okay. Because I remember I saw the sage bundle like up at the front office, like, and I was like, what the hell is that doing there? And then like later on that day, like one of my coworkers said, oh yeah, they used that to cleanse the area. And I was like, okay, then. All right, then. Are you a shaman? I guess it's okay. Right. I guess that happened.
If it works, it works.
I have no idea if it works or not. I'm not an expert with this stuff. I'm interested in it, but it's I don't know. Maybe because I remember it was funny too. Because I remember like I when I stepped into the facility later on that day, I could still like I remember smelling something. And I was like, that's a little off. Like, what the hell is that? Is there something burning? What the fuck? Like, it was just like the very like faintest remnants of it. You know what I mean? So like once my coworker had told me like, hey, yeah, they burned sage here and they took it around the facility to cleanse the area. I was like, oh, that's what I smelled. Okay, that makes sense. Like. But like I just thought it was kind of funny that anybody, I don't know, like I said, I'm not necessarily a believer, like I said, even though I really want to, but I know that people have used sage to cleanse areas or get demons out or something like that for a long time. It's been it's a long lasting tradition for some people. So I don't necessarily understand it, but I know it's a thing, but I still kind of find it a little funny, that they would go that far, I don't know. It was just weird. I was like, all right then, like, and that I don't know, yeah, that kind of like makes me like almost like that one female coworker that says that she lives in that house that she has all those experiences and stuff in, and it kind of almost makes me believe her a little bit more, really, to be honest, that she would like, because why would she even do that? I guess you know what I mean, because she was the one that burned the sage, so. I thought, I don't know, it was kind of interesting, it was, I wish I would have been there, to be honest, while they were doing their ceremony or what have you, like, cause like, I'm a bit of an asshole. So I would have been there, like talking shit and like making fun of them just because I find it fun,
Well, internally you're like thinking to yourself, oh, thank God. Finally, we're going to get rid of these damn ghosts.
Yeah. Good riddance.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have a ghost story to tell myself. When I was younger and living in Southern California, we lived in an apartment in Covina. Was this in Covina or West Covina?
It was in Covina.
It was in Covina? Okay. Yeah. It was near that shopping center, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Covina. Okay. So we lived in this little 1-bedroom apartment. And
it was tiny.
Yeah, it was a tiny little apartment.
Tiny little shit splat.
Asian Ether lived with me there. So
was that the apartment that had the bolt hole in the side? Wasn't there one?
You're gonna spoil the story, ETA.
Oh, God damn it. I'm sorry. I didn't even know that related to it.
Yeah, so
I didn't even know. Okay, my bad, dude.
So one morning I woke up and it was like probably a weekend or something, and I was sleeping in a little bit, so it was already like sunlight out and stuff. But I wake up and the foot of the bed is pointed towards the bedroom door. And I look up, and there's like a woman standing in the doorway of the bedroom door. And at first I thought it might be Ether, even though it looked nothing like her. Then I look over and Ether's asleep next to me. Then I look back and I see the woman. She's short. I'd say she's probably like, I don't know, 5'4" to 5'6", Caucasian or perhaps Hispanic with brown curly hair. And she just looked at me. She smiled and she turned around and walked out. And that was it. And I was like, what? There's somebody in the apartment? But it wasn't like somebody robbing us. It was just, a woman. So, or a young woman, looked like she was in her early 20s, basically. So I got up and I went outside, and this is a pretty small apartment. And the amount of time it took me to get up and go out there, it was a second story, and there's really no way out other than the front door. There was a side window, but she would have had to jump out, and the side window was closed anyways, and you would have heard it opening. The door was locked, and the room was empty. There's the bedroom, the bathroom, which was kind of connected to the bedroom, and then the living area with the living/kitchen area. And there was no way that a real person would have been able to get out from that, the amount of time. I got out of bed pretty much right away and went looking for her. She would not have had time to even walk to the front door, as small as the apartment was. And if she had done anything in there, I would have heard it, but she didn't make any noise whatsoever, actually. So that was it. But it didn't look ethereal or misty or see-through or anything like that. It looked like a real actual person was there, but there was nobody there. And I've always wondered, like maybe I was still asleep and dreaming in my, after I woke up or something, but I wasn't paralyzed. It wasn't sleep paralysis. And I was fully awake after I realized there was somebody else in the apartment. I woke up like bolt upright when I saw her. And, she didn't go away when I was wide awake. She just turned around and walked out. And then that was it. And then I went out there and she wasn't there. And I wonder, sometimes I wonder if it was my imagination. But the one thing that kind of makes me wonder is that in the bathroom, so the bathroom is sort of part of the bedroom. It's like sort of parallel. It's like it's off to the side. And in the bathroom, you can see the wall that adjoins the wall that's shared with the next door apartment. You can see 3 holes that have been patched, and then you can see them on the other wall that went into the bedroom, but they're spread out a little bit. So it looks like patched bullet holes. And if you were in front of those holes standing up, it would have hit you probably in the abdomen. But one of the holes went right over where the toilet was. And if you were sitting down, depending on how tall you were, if you're sitting down on the toilet, it would have hit you either in the upper chest or the neck. Or if you were this lady's height, it might have even hit you in the head because she was a little on the shorter side. So I always wonder, did that person, is that the person of a ghost who died to those bullet wounds? Was she in the bathroom and she got hit? I don't know.
Don't you remember too, when we moved in there, in the upper closet towards the back, we actually found bullets.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, there were actually bullets in the apartment.
I completely forgot about that. That's crazy. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, and so it's just a totally weird and creepy experience.
Apartment.
Yeah. Besides that, we got plenty of stories from that apartment.
Oh my gosh!
Not necessarily ghost stories, but yeah, man, that still to this day it just creeps me out just thinking about it. Like, what was it? But she smiled. She was happy, and I felt this sense of like warmth coming from her, like kind of like she was looking at us. This young couple just starting out our lives. And she was looking at us and smiling at us and sort of like maybe with a sense of longing, like she wished she could be there doing what we were doing, just, living our lives, basically. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Well, and while she was there, maybe she was doing the same thing.
Yeah. Maybe she was young couple starting out, and then it ended tragically, maybe. And I should look up this address because at the time when we were living there, when this happened, I didn't really have the internet, so I couldn't really just go Google something, That
was a long time ago.
We're not that old. The internet was a thing. It did exist at the time. We were just too poor to afford it.
Oh, God, we were poor.
Yeah.
Well, back then also, the internet was very expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It wasn't that bad, but back then, like an extra $15 or whatever for dial-up, we just didn't.
Starved.
We didn't have it. We didn't have $50 for a modem. We didn't have a few $100 for a computer. We didn't have money for any of that stuff at the time. So, I keep thinking, maybe I should Google that address and see if I could find news maybe there's a news report or something. Because if somebody died there, you should be able to find that. You should maybe, I don't know, go to the library and look up newspaper articles or something, archives. I don't know exactly how you would find that, but yeah, so that's, pretty creepy. That's my real life ghost story. I do have another one that's a dream, but maybe I'll save that for next year. It was a dream / waking one that's the most terrifying experience I've ever had in my life. Let me see how we're going here. Oh, okay, we're a little short of an hour. I can tell this one.
Throw it.
It's another short
Yeah,
one.
I want to hear.
Okay, so this one was when I was living at my parents' house. It was the summertime. I was a kid. I don't know how old exactly. I think I was probably, I was definitely in high school, but I was young. So I think I was probably like 14 or 15, right? And it was summertime, and I was sleeping on the couch in the living room. I'd probably been watching TV. Then I turned the TV off, went to sleep or whatever. And I had this really vivid dream, like one of these dreams that, I've had vivid dreams, like lucid dreams once or twice in my life that I remember. It's not that often, but have had a couple of them. But this one wasn't lucid. Like, it felt real. Like, it felt like I was really, really there. It's different. I've only had one dream like this ever, and this is it. So I was in this room, and there was other people there, and we were kind of dressed in robes, and we were chanting around this circle, doing like this ritual. And
satanic ritual?
I don't know if it was satanic. It was a ritual. It was weird. And we were doing this chanting and stuff. We were all dressed really weird. And the circle had like all those like runes and stuff inscribed in it that you might expect from like a circle of whatever, like a satanic circle, I guess.
Maybe it was just an alchemy circle.
Yeah, alchemy circle, right? But
it was a pentagram.
I was chanting along with them. And it was like a real language. Like, I don't know what language it would be, but like I was saying actual words, but I didn't understand the words I was saying. I was sort of like, it was like, like a really vivid dream, but I didn't have control over my own actions. And that's the strange thing, is usually when people have vivid dreams, they describe themselves as having awareness that the dream is real and having control over their own actions. But it was almost like I was a passenger. I was just sort of watching stuff happen, but from a first person. Weird. It was really weird. But so that happened, and then I woke up suddenly from the dream, right? And there's sort of like in the dream, there's sort of like a climax happening, like people getting more excited and stuff, and generally, and it's sort of hard to explain exactly what happened. But I woke up suddenly, and I was asleep facing the couch, so my back was to the room, and I woke up. Something in the dream had scared me. And I don't remember exactly what that was, but I remember waking up being absolutely terrified. And then I heard behind me in the room, I heard like this rattling. I heard a wind sound, and I heard like wind chimes moving around the room. Like,
no, thank you.
Like there was something there, and I was too terrified to turn around and look. So I just like laid there for a little while and just kind of wishing that it went away. And eventually it did. And I went back to sleep and pretended like it didn't happen. But that's like, that's the most scared I've ever been in my whole life. It was absolutely terrifying. And like, there was a real presence in the room. And like I said, I woke up from a dream, so I could have still been dreaming, but it was scary, guys. Like, I can't even explain just how terrifying it was. Like, I felt a presence in the room. And again, I was not paralyzed. Really? This was not sleep paralysis, because I could move. If I had wanted to, I could have turned around and looked at it. I absolutely could have, but I didn't, because I didn't want to. I was like, I don't know what the fuck that is. I'm just going to pretend like it's not there. It scared the crap out of me. But luckily, apparently nothing bad happened to me. It went away. After creeping around the room for a little while, it buggered off, It sort of just, it didn't,
whatever it was.
It didn't go down the hallway. It didn't go out the window. It just sort of moved around and then just sort of stopped. And that was it. It didn't make any more noise. And I was like, I'm still not turning around. I'm still not going to do it. I'm still not going to look, because
I don't want to see. I don't want to see. I don't like it.
I'm not taking that risk. It was
out of sight, out of mind, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, it was so crazy. Absolutely terrifying. But
Then he grabbed the gas and the lighters, right? Then he totally
I know,
torched
right?
that place. Cause
Well,
Yeah.
I would have grabbed my gat and then turned around and be like, "What's up, motherfucker?" Like, but that probably would do no good if it was a spirit or something. Like, that
And,
obviously is idiotic.
I
but-
hear stories like what Anderson is sharing, and I just can't help but wondering if more people have experiences like this and they dismiss it either because they feel like, well, that can't be real, it's outside of the norm of my reality, or it is so emotionally upsetting that their brain cannot process it and just dismisses it and you forget about it.
And also because the stigma attached to something like this, like they don't want to talk about it either because they don't want somebody to look at them like they're crazy, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean, like, it was absolutely terrifying to me, and I was still fairly young, like basically still a child. But I mean, who am I going to tell? Am I going to go tell my mom? Be like, there's I heard noises.
well,
Right.
I don't think mom would have believed you. She probably would have just said, no,
Exactly.
that didn't happen.
It's like, how are you even going to describe that to somebody? First of all. Second of all, they're not going to believe you. So like, I just didn't tell anybody. In fact, I think of the only person I've ever told this before, I think is Agent Ether and maybe Agent ETA. I don't remember, but like, this is
I remember you mentioning that. Yeah.
This is not a story that I've told many people just because it's like, first of all, nobody's going to believe me. Second of all, it's like, how do you even, it's hard to even describe the experience to people, you know? So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. It's not like I've never been at a party and be like, hey, guess what I saw when I was a kid, you know, like, or did not see, as the case may be. But there was one, I forget the name of the game, but I was playing an idle game. This is one of those experiences where it's like, I kind of tried to forget about it. But I was playing this idle game. I used to play games on Congregate, and I liked idle games because you could put them on and then come back to them periodically. There's this game where one of the levels in the idle game was like a demonic portal, and it had like wind chime sounds, and it sounded exactly like what I remember the wind chimes sounded like. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why would they choose that sound for a demonic portal? Like, you would choose like monster sounds and scary sounds, not a wind chime sound. I wish I could find that game again just so I could like
scare yourself.
No, so I could like post it so people could check it out or something. But I mean, it was like, it brought me right back to the experience because I don't know, it was an unexpected thing in the game to see. And it
You're
was
all traumatized and stuff.
I was like, what the fuck? Why would you put this in a game? Like, what? Honestly, why would you make a demon portal with wind chime sounds? You know? What is that like? Is that an experience that other people have had with something like this, where there's some sort of significance to wind chimes? Because it was wind chimes, and it sounded like a windy day. You know, like wind blowing through trees, like woo, like that kind of wind. But it was like inside the room, and it wasn't that loud. Wind chimes in the wind. It's crazy. Like the windows were closed, by the way. If you're wondering, our windows were closed, and we didn't have wind chimes anyways, so it wasn't that. Our neighbors didn't have wind chimes, so I wasn't hearing something like that. Crazy, man.
Now I feel guilty because I have wind chimes everywhere. I even have a set in my car.
No, but yeah, but they don't sound like these wind chimes though.
Okay.
These had a particular sound. I like wind chimes. They sound nice. But these wind chimes had a very specific sound, a very creepy sound, if you can imagine that. But yeah, so yeah, exactly like what you guys are saying though. It's like, who are you going to tell, you know? And I think that actually, I think that a lot of people have had strange experiences, you know, maybe not a ghost experience or a UFO encounter or anything like that. But I think a lot of people have had things that they can't necessarily fully explain, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, so
yeah.
Those are my creepy stories I had for today. I also had some stuff that I don't think I'm going to need to talk about, but I looked into zombies a little bit because who doesn't like zombies? But maybe we'll do that some other time. Fun stories as far as that goes. But yeah, anybody else have any other spooky stories they'd like to share?
I don't know. I was trying to think about a time in my life where I was as scared as what you are describing, and I could not come up with anything.
I can tell you I've had times in my life where I was put in situations, very dangerous situations because of my career, basically, and I was terrified, but it wasn't not in the same way though. It wasn't a ghost thing. It was because I might die right now. It's possible, but like it's but that's not the same thing at all though. I've been that scared, but not in the same way.
It was different. Like I've been in scary situations, like where you think you're about to get into a car accident, or where somebody's trying to fight with you, or scary stuff, right? Or for example, there's that one, I forget exactly what they call it, like, paradoxical idiocy or something, where you're standing on a bridge and you have this urge to jump off, and then you get terrified that you had that urge or whatever. But like, this was different, man. This was like being scared for my very soul. It's hard to explain, but it was it was horrible.
I've had it where like I went out to go body surfing, and then my buddy and we got thrown on top of each other, and we couldn't breathe. We were in a really bad riptide, and we were by the jetties, and we were it was so bad that we got thrown on top of each other, and it was so bad that I could hear my friend screaming, trying to get out and scream, but he was underwater, so you just hear, and it was bad, and I gave up.
That's something that you have, like when you get caught in a bad riptide like that, you have no control over it. All of a sudden, it just takes a hold of you,
Well, the thing,
there's nothing you can do really.
Yeah, it just felt like a big ass, like the Hulk, just beating the shit out of you, and there was nothing you could do. But there was this one thing that will always stick with me, was that I had I gave up. I was like, well, I guess this is where it ends. It was a hell of a ride, being only, I'm 17, but man, I lived a life, right? No, but straight up, I was like, I guess this is where it die. That's shitty, because I'm going to be dying in the water, which I don't want to die. I didn't want to die like this.
Well,
and so
at least you'll have some similarities to Bradley Noel from Sublime.
Well, the thing was, the thing that stood out most was that I actually, within that moment, because of the lack of oxygen, clearly, I full on, I hallucinated. It was a full on, I saw, I was peering over the backs of two individuals that I could make out at that time who were alive. It was my mom and brother, but it wasn't them. It was it was just the weirdest thing. And I was peering over their shoulders to look at the TV, and the TV was saying, oh, 2 swimmers found today dead, drowned. And they said exactly my age and the description of who I am, but they didn't say my name. And that you could see in how those helicopter views where it shows from the top down, and you could see somebody pulling a body out. And then it literally, I remember shaking my head, and as if you're waking up from falling asleep type deal. And I was just no. And I was just seeing green. And that's when my adrenaline was it kicked up to 100. And I just by chance, my brother even will say, because I stopped flailing around at that point. We were just so topsy turvy. I will tell you a million times before that incident, I am a strong swimmer. Even after this, I am a strong swimmer. I grew up at the beach. And so to get into that situation, what really freaked me out is because I tried to put my foot down in the sand when I got pushed down, and I missed. It was so deep that my brain, my compass was oh, you're gonna touch sand now. But then I missed it and did a barrel roll, as if I was in a washing machine, and I got completely turned upside down. And I was oh shit, I've never had this sensation before. But it was right after having that hallucination or whatever the hell it was, maybe I started feeling myself rise in the right direction, and that's when I just kicked into survival, fight and flight mode, where I was just oh, there's my chance, get out of here. And it was just by chance I survived. And honestly, I should not have my toes to the tips of my hair. It just felt everything in my body was just sore after that moment. But it was like full on, like I gave up. I was prepared to die. I was like, I'm fucking dead. Like, and I was almost trying to embrace that next whatever the hell I'm going to embrace. And that's when I had that short vision or whatever the hell it was. But then that was just the creepiest thing. And I remember afterwards we're at Jack in a Box and we were just staring at each other and we were just like, like you gave up. Yep, we gave up. We both gave up. Yeah, that was. Let's not do that ever again. Let's not go to that fucking side of the beach anymore.
Hey Kruger, can you do me a favor, brother? Like, can you never do that again?
Yeah, it
if
was
you don't
bad.
mind.
It was bad. And like when we got out though, like my buddy was like still trapped in there, and went from like, you know, when you're with your buddies, you're like, oh, if anyone's drowning, I'm sprinting out there. I'm the number one man.
I bet after it was over too, you probably felt a fair amount of fatigue too, because
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
that's got to take it out of you. You know,
that's what I was saying. From the tips of my hair to my toenail, like everything on me was just exhausted. Like I've never felt that tired before. I've been in Hell Week. I've played rugby. I've done other things that like really push you to your limits. But I was like, I was dead tired. We flat out like collapsed on the beach for a good hour, and like I fell asleep because that's how time. Like I was just exhausted, and of course, right when we fought our way back to the out of the ocean, like that's when the fucking dickhead lifeguard comes up. He's like, "Hey, you guys okay?" I was like, "No, we were just yelling at you for the past however." Like it was bad. We were like, "We're screaming at you. Where the hell were you?" Like he was just completely oblivious to the whole situation. And it was freaky. But yeah, that was shitty. Like
Well, nobody becomes a lifeguard to save people. You become a lifeguard to pick up on chicks and work on your tan.
Yeah.
Hell yeah! Are you kidding me? I mean, if I had a good body and stuff, and I was a strong swimmer, what have you, you know, to be a lifeguard, that's a good opportunity right there.
Do they even have lifeguards anymore? I feel like I've been to the beach a lot, and I have not seen any lifeguards in a long time.
Seasonal now.
You guys can just drown.
Yeah. I haven't been to the beach in actually quite some time, and I miss it. Like, because now I don't live toward like next to the beach or close to the beach anymore. You know, I live next to a lake, and like they don't have bodyguards. Like they have law enforcement there patrolling because of where I live. Like it's a party town, so it's you know it's a vacation destination. So you have a lot of drunk people driving boats and stuff. But
hey, we get drunk
I've never seen a lifeguard.
They need to make sure that none of the ladies are going around topless. So they really hate that there.
Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah. Hey, you got drunk people everywhere you go nowadays. I'm a drunk person right now, as a matter of fact. and I'm having a great time too.
I wish I was, but unfortunately I got to wake up in the morning.
Ditto.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah. But all right, I think that's is that everybody's ghost stories for today?
Yeah, I think so. As far as what I had to contribute.
All right.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Yuppers.
All right. Well,
don't forget to do your Patreon shoutouts.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But so I think that's about it for this week's episode. Like I said at the beginning, I was going to shout out some Patreon people. Where did I put that list? It's a super long list, guys. No, I just want to make sure.
Hey, you gotta start somewhere, right?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I got the names correct. So far on Patreon, we have supporting Day One Comics, Rune, Al Christensen, and Diamond, of course, who's in the audience.
Oh, thanks, guys.
We really appreciate your support, guys.
Let's shout out the audience too, because like everybody that's here right now has been here throughout the whole episode. It seems to me.
Yeah.
We have Degenerate, which by the way I love that name because I consider myself a little bit of a degenerate as well. You know, and then Diamond, of course, Diamond. Thank you, dude. You know, for everything. Ozzy Meemaw is always there, man.
Yeah. What's up, Ozzy Meemaw?
Thank you for listening, man. Or ma'am. but like, and then we have Pangloss. Is that how you Pangloss?
Yeah.
I don't know how you pronounce that, but thank you for being here.
Yeah.
You know,
I like
we
the name.
appreciate
Just
every single one of you.
That's the best. No, yeah, all of you guys, thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out. You guys are the best. We wouldn't be doing this if you guys weren't listening anyway. So
yeah,
honestly,
thanks everyone.
Well, it makes it that much more worth it, you know, to see that people actually want to listen and they give you like good positive feedback too. It gives me motivation to go forward. Not that I wouldn't, you know, but like it makes it that much more worth it. Like I was saying, you know, it makes it very enjoyable.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Keep it strange.